So here is what John sees. John says, I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne. So God is holding a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed up with 7 seals. Okay, what is he talking about? So he's talking about this kind of scroll. Okay, so it's like a piece of papyrus or whatever they used to write on. Okay, it had writing on it, and then it had been rolled up, okay, and then sealed shut with these. You see those red things? Those are wax seals. Okay, so there were wax seals holding it shut. Okay, and then usually they would also have some twine wrapped around it. Okay, so this was what God was holding in his right hand. And now you know how I love my props. I love to make my little props. Remember my heaven ticket? So I made a little replica of the scroll. So here it is. It's kind of getting washed out by the light. Okay, so I rolled up a piece of paper. Can you see it? See it? And then I used sticky notes to make seven seals. Okay, holding it shut. Okay, can you see that? Okay, so that's my prop. We'll be seeing a lot of that today. All right. So, yes, so God is holding this in his right hand, okay? And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the scroll and to break its seals? And no one in heaven or on the earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look into it. And then John began to weep greatly because no one was found worthy to open the scroll or to look into it. Okay, so he's very sad that this scroll has been sealed shut and no one can read it. And one of the elders said to me, stop weeping. Behold, the Lion that is from the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has overcome so as to be able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. Okay, so what in the world is happening here? Now I'm going to take some time and pull this all apart because it is very important that we understand what is happening here in order for us to understand the rest of this chapter and the next chapter, okay, and probably the whole rest of the book of Revelation. All right, this is really, really important. So let's start at the end here. All right, so who is worthy to open the scroll? Okay, what according to the elder? The Lion that is from the tribe of Judah, the root of David. Who is that? Obviously, he's talking about Jesus, right? And why is Jesus now worthy to open the scroll? He has overcome so as to be able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. Okay, so what did Jesus do to overcome? Okay, what's the thing Jesus did? Jesus came to earth as a man. He died as a replacement for our sins. He shed his blood to cover us, okay, and our sins. And then he rose again from the dead. So he defeated and conquered sin and death because he lived a perfect, sinless life. So he fulfilled the law. And then he rose again, conquered death, and ascended back into heaven. This is what Jesus has done. This is why he has overcome. He has overcome sin and death, okay? And so now Jesus, at the very end of this, is the one who has overcome. And he is the only one who is worthy now to open this scroll. Okay, so what is on this scroll? Why is John so sad and weeping greatly? Because nobody can open the scroll and read what is on this scroll. Okay, so as I was reading through, there are so many different theories about what's on this scroll. But let me tell you what I believe, and I think that it's pretty clear. I believe that what is written on this scroll is the will of God. The will of God. Why do I believe that? Okay, first of all, remember the last thing that the angels were saying and the creatures that were worshiping God, they said, it is because of your will that all of this has been created, your will. So they had just talked about his will. And here's the main reason why I believe this, because according to Roman law, wills, like somebody's personal last testament will, they were sealed with 7 seals. Okay, sealed with 7 seals. This was the way wills were sealed under Roman law. Now, John would have known that because John was under Roman law. He was a prisoner of the Romans at the time. So I believe that is why this is a scroll rolled up with 7 seals, because it is the will of God. And John would have immediately recognized that this contains the will of God. That's why he's crying. That's why he's so upset, because he knows the will of God is all sealed up. Nobody can read it. The will of God cannot be accomplished. And when did that happen? When did that happen, that the will of God would have been rolled up in a scroll and sealed up so that it couldn't be accomplished? That would have happened at the beginning with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, when sin entered the world. Okay, follow me here. Because when God created Adam and Eve, when he created the earth, everything was perfect. He created Adam and Eve perfect. They had glorified bodies. They were going to live forever. Everything about his creation was good and perfect until sin entered the world. Okay, so when God created Adam and Eve, what was his commission to them? What was his covenant? He told them to subdue the earth, rule the earth, be fruitful and multiply and subdue the earth. So when God created Adam and Eve, he gave the earth to them to rule over it. So that was his covenant with them. And he had one condition, one. You can have everything I've created except one thing. Do not eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And that was one condition. That's it. And what did they do? Okay, you know the story. Satan came in and he tricked them, and they ate the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So they disobeyed God. They broke covenant with God. And when they did that and they disobeyed God and obeyed the serpent, Satan, then they made a contract with Satan. They made a contract with the enemy instead of with God. And so this earth, this world that God had given them to rule over, they gave it to Satan. And that is when God's will was rolled up and sealed shut. Okay, so God's will could not be accomplished because from the time of Adam and Eve, when they fell, until Jesus came and died on the cross and then rose again, Satan really was the ruler of the earth. Okay, when Satan took Jesus out in the wilderness and he said, if I will give you all of this if you bow down to me, he had the right to say that because he was the ruler of the earth. But he didn't know Jesus had another plan, and Jesus broke that covenant when he died on the cross, shed his blood for us, and then came back to life. And he broke the covenant that was made between Adam and Eve, between humanity and the devil, when he rose back to life. Okay. So, but when that happened, when Adam and Eve sinned and they brought sin and death into the world, God's will was rolled up and it was sealed shut. Does that make sense? Have you ever heard that before? Now, I did not come up with this myself. Okay, there are lots of other people who teach this way, but it is not a very well-known teaching. But I think it will make even more sense to you as I continue. So stick with me.